Welcome to the Hop Edition podcast, brought to you in association with the Malt Miller, your go-to choice for premium homebrewing ingredients and equipment. Whether you're a beginner starting out or an experienced brewer, the Malt Miller has got you covered. So for top quality products and customer service, jump over to themaltmiller.co.uk and tell them the Hop Edition sent you. We would also like to thank all our Patreons for their continued support with running and developing the pod. If you would like to become a member and gain access to exclusive perks and benefits, head over to patreon.com/the Hop Edition. Now it's time to get this pod started, so crack open a homebrew and enjoy the episode. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 108 of the Hop Edition podcast. Tonight we're chatting to Dave Goddard, also known as Trapped Under Ice Brewing.
Hi guys.
And
yeah, showing off the t-shirt you've got. No one else has got the threads. Dave, make that happen.
Or make that happen.
In so, extra fat.
Once we've got the t-shirt order sorted out, we'll be getting into this podcast with Dave, who is a home brewer, patron of the pod, and an aspiring brewing professional, which we'll be talking a lot more about as we go along. So this year on the pod, we're looking to bring more of our amazing homebrewing comrades onto the episodes to share their knowledge with us and experience. And given the outstanding beers that we've already had from Dave, who kindly sent us awesome beers previously, we couldn't think of anyone better to start off that kind of new kind of series of the podcast with Mr. Goddard. So thanks for coming on to join us. Before we get into all of that, though, we've got to say a big thank you to our partner sponsor, the Malt Miller, premier supplier of all things homebrew. As always, swing by their website to check out their great range. And while you're there, check out their Hop Edition recipe section, where you'll find a range of beers from the podcast, including creations from previous podcast guests. Maybe we might even get one of Dave's recipes up on the website for you if we can. So it's the usual start to the episode. Starting off with our guest, we're going to do the round robin and ask, what have you got in the glass tonight? So Dave, tell us what you are drinking.
Well, I've got two bottles here. One is from Owen, but it's got no label on. So
mystery beer.
Just I think it's very typical for Owen, isn't it, having no labels?
It certainly is.
That could literally be anything.
I think it's Westy.
Let's play guess the beer. Owen's conveniently disappeared as well, so we're
yes, it's Westy.
Mercy. Definitely a Westy.
Yeah, very nice. Nice and bitter.
Excellent. Cool. Chris, what are you drinking?
Me, I am drinking the remnants of a Bramling Cross and Mosaic, kind of with my standard lager base beer. I don't think this one works as well as I was hoping it would. It's all right.
It was a pretty bold hop combo, to be fair, going Bramling Cross and Mosaic.
I threw the Bramling Cross in the boil and basically put some Bramling Cross and Mosaic into Whirlpool, and then dry hopped it with a bit of Mosaic just to see.
I can kind of see where you were going with it, with the kind of blackberry and blueberry berry general sort of thing. Didn't work.
Don't work. No. So I've got basically about 17 litres of this to throw down the drain.
Well, you're drinking it now, so I reckon you could soldier through that.
I'm not being funny, mate. Unless it improves inside the next 7 days, it's going down the drain.
The future doesn't look bright for that beer. So I am on another New Zealand Pilsner. This is one of the beers that I've got in the Scottish National this weekend. So, I won't talk too much about this because I've probably said far too much about New Zealand Pilsners on this podcast before. The results should be up tomorrow. So shout out to everyone, all the patrons and everyone else who is actually entering this competition. I know we've got quite a few people in the comp this weekend, so good luck to all of you, but also a massive well done to the people organising and running the Scottish National, because they've not had the best weekend to be doing an event where you're supposed to have lots of people travelling from all over the place to get there. Just a little breeze up there. But yeah, I think they're one of the chaps who was running it was posting videos earlier, and he posted some updates saying that their venue was actually shut yesterday, but they still managed to judge some of the beers. So they're on schedule, and hopefully there'll be some results out for that tomorrow. So good luck to everyone involved, and well done to the guys who are running the Scottish National. I was kind of hoping that Owen might have reappeared at this point to tell us what he'd be drinking, but I think he's attending to daddy duties right now. So we'll get back to our guests. So Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's the where did Trapped Under Ice name come from? That'd be a good thing for you to tell us about. And what's your sort of general background as far as brewing goes, and when that all started?
So I live in Southampton. I've sort of been brewing for maybe 6 years, but all grain brewing for about 2.5 years. And Trapped Under Ice name comes from Metallica. So it's it's nothing special. Just I was trying to think of a name, and I'm a massive metalhead, and the song come on and it just clicked, and I was like, right, that is it.
I thought you'd had like an accident while you were snowboarding or something. It's pretty cool though, I have to say. It looks great on the labels. So for those of you who've not seen any of Dave's beers, it does actually look awesome on the labels. And the sort of art that you've got going off is really cool. I also like the Tonks name. I think it's nice that you've got the Patronus on there as well, even though you probably weren't going for that.
No, I was.
But yeah, it looks very cool. So, what kind of dog you got, Dave?
I've got a Jack Russell pug and a Dachshund. Claire's trying to get them to calm down, so apologies for that.
That's all good, mate. It's all good. These things happen. So, yeah. Owen, you're back.
Yeah, so...
what are you drinking, mate?
I am drinking a beer from Northern Monk, which I picked up in Lidl today. Picked up a 4-pack. It's called Sup, which, I don't know, maybe that's stand-up paddleboarding, or
Who
maybe
knows?
it's just
not
they want
in
us
York.
to sup it. But it's a golden ale, crisp golden beer. It's called 3.4%. It's not as light as I thought it was going to be. It's quite dark, but it's really good, really nice. Carries. It's got like nice bit of body to it, right, for the ABV, and it's got a nice flavour to it as well. Be guessing it's probably hops with something that is more New World than Old World. I don't think it's English hop. Not enough hedgerow.
Not enough
twigs. No,
Can't
that's been
taste the tree
disingenuous to UK hops. It might be UK hops. I don't know, but it's pretty free and it's pretty easy drinking. So I'm quite pleased. I've had one already. This is my second.
Nice.
Cheers.
Yeah, Owen's getting arseholed tonight. Right. So come on, Dave. Let's focus on you, shall we, mate? Let's focus on that beard. Let's focus on all those tattoos. How many you got, by the way? Because it looks like 2 sleeves.
Well, it depends on. You could class it as 30 tattoos, or it could just be one big tattoo. So I've got.
Oh, it's one of them, is it?
2 leg sleeves, 2 arm sleeves, like full torso. So, yeah.
Right, you've had a bit of work done then.
I've had a little bit of work, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Where did your homebrew journey start, and more importantly, why did it start?
So, I mean, just like most people like that are into brewing, sort of started on the sort of Wilco kits in the bucket on the old kits, and sort of brewed some very questionable beer, but it was just about drinkable. So I made some ciders and some wine as well, and then I got invited around to my friend Ollie's house. He's got a Grainfather G30, and yeah, he just invited me around for a brew day to sort of see what it was all about. You know, and sort of seeing the process. I just fell in love with the process, and he was talking me through the recipe. So like, we sort of look into the recipe development side of things, and just fell in love, and pretty much bought a Grainfather straight away.
Sounds like a plan, to be fair. And what are you brewing on at the moment?
So it's
Still on
like,
the Grainfather?
yeah, Grainfather G40. I was fermenting in corny kegs, 19-litre corny kegs, but recently got a Chronicle, which I'm not enjoying the fact that you can't pressurize it very much. So I'm already looking at maybe getting something else.
The max PSI.
Yeah, or is it 2.5 psi
Max boost, as
Yeah.
our
Boost.
Scottish friend would refer to it. Andy's not with us, by the way, tonight because he's off at a 50th birthday party. So, assuming
And
that
it's
hasn't been
his.
blown away in a gale, but
It's his
yeah.
birthday party because he's that old. He's not really. It's someone else's. Yeah.
He's practically unrecognisable.
He is,
Shaved
mate.
his head.
Faded
He's
away.
lost about
Yeah.
5 million stone.
I mean, he started rock climbing, so I guess if you've got to haul yourself up a wall, it kind of helps a bit if you shed a few pounds. Because
Definitely motivated.
I wouldn't
to be
make
a
it
bit
much
lighter.
further than about 2 feet off the ground, I don't think.
That's why I use lifts.
That's what escalators are for, right?
That's what it is.
So the
Yeah.
Stannis stair lift.
That's the one. That's the one. So, Dave, at this point in your homebrewing journey, would you characterise yourself as a homebrewer, as a semi-pro, or just someone who's got a problem?
Yeah, probably someone that's got a problem.
Yeah?
It's hard because it's like it's like homebrewing on steroids. I want to homebrew and get the beers out to as many people as possible, but you're kind of constricted to I've only got a G40. I can only have so many mates around to have beers. So the idea of having a brewery and getting my beers out there, it should be great.
So you're in the process of trying to get kind of professional operations set up and running, right? So where are you at in that? And I think you've got some kit already, but you're not got a sort of place to actually set it up yet.
I've brought a 12 hectolitre kit from Sure Shot in Manchester.
Okay.
They're keeping hold of it for me, just paying a little bit of storage.
Yeah.
And we're just looking for a premises in Southampton, Eastleigh, somewhere local.
So it's definitely happening because you've bought a big load of shiny that you've got to put somewhere.
It's got to happen now.
You're committed now. Well, that's cool. That all sounds pretty exciting. And you've already done a bit of collaboration brewing with other people, haven't you? Because I think the cans that you sent out to us were... Sorry, I've forgotten the name of the brewery. Tell us about the... tell us about that.
That was Ice Pirates, 7% oat cream NEPA. And that
Which was an absolute stunner, by the way. So, yeah, that was an amazing
Banger.
One. Thank you. That was with Disruption is Brewing. They're in Camberley.
Yeah. Okay.
But I've sort of been asking breweries to, if I go along and help. So the first person that said yes was Hoddy, actually. So I literally heard him on the podcast.
Yeah.
I emailed him pretty much instantly, and he was like, "Yeah, come down at the weekend," and that was it. So I've done 2 brews with Hoddy.
Good old boy.
He's brilliant. I've done a brew at Siren. That was good. They've got some big kit there. And the Disruption beer.
So literally, you just basically messaged these people, and they've just gone, "Yeah, turn up." And
quite a few people either ignore you or say they can't help. But a few people were like, "Yeah, come on down."
So a lot of that's been like sort of volunteering, Dave, sort of just getting used to the kind of bigger kit, learning the ropes, like absorbing some info, etc. But Disruption was the main collab that you've done, where your name's been on the can as well, right?
Yeah. So Disruption started off me and Claire working at one of their beer festivals, and then got chatting to all the guys, and they said, "I'll come down for a brew day." So I went down and brewed one of their beers called Chaos. Chaos is Chaos. Chaos More Chaos. And then I got invited back after that to a collab. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it was a very good beer. I was lucky enough to try it twice because you brought it along to Homebrew Club. Dave and I go to the same Homebrew Club because we're both Southampton. And So I got to try it then, and then you very kindly sent me a can as well, and it was just for 7%. It was so drinkable, like just dangerously drinkable. I remember just sitting here with having it. I think I might have been gaming with Chris or watching a movie or something, and I remember just sitting there, just drinking it, and before I knew it was gone, and I was like, "Wow, that's dangerous." That was 7%.
The weird thing is, over Christmas, I had that Impy that you sent us, Dave.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I can't remember what was in it, obviously, because it was like 28% or some shit. And I was sat watching TV with a wife, and I'm fairly sure that in an episode of what we were watching, which was like 30 minutes or 35 minutes, that went. So, I'll be honest, it's not like your beer's shit, mate. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, they're not shit, they're fucking ace. That oat cream Nipah was godlike. That was so
And you
good.
put Galaxy in it and managed to make it not taste like death. So
Yeah, true.
Congrats.
I thought it was going to be a bit harsher because of the Galaxy,
Yeah.
but it rounded out, and it was, yeah.
It was really, really nice, was that. So, you described that as oat cream. What was it that gives that description? Tell us about the grist and stuff, and yeah, we'll ask you a follow-up question in a minute.
So it had, I can get it up on my phone, but it had quite a lot of oats in it, obviously, and it had a reasonable amount of lactose in it as well.
So that's the main two like parameters.
That's sort of the
kind
oat cream.
determining the oat cream thing.
Yeah,
It was dangerously drinkable, that beer. For 7%, it was dangerously drinkable.
I have
So-
drank a few cans.
I bet.
How many cans did you end up with, Dave?
I think I had 150 cans here at one point, and there's 3 left. Well, I didn't drink all of them.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
We can tell that because you're not dead.
yeah, he sent 5 out to us. He drank the rest.
Yeah, so that's 8. That's 8 left. Yeah, so yeah, you drank 142.
Wow, that's incredible. So what would you say that your favourite combination of adjuncts is for like hazy beers? What would you throw in there to make it a hazy?
See, I've started upping the oats with like pretty much every beer that I make. So the last one was 20% oat and flaked oat and 20% flaked wheat. So that was, and I just find the body's just great. But next time I'm thinking about doing 30% oat, maybe bringing the wheat down. It's just that's what I love about it. Just you've got these levers to pull. So more oats, more wheat. You got malted versions of them, flaked, golden naked oats you can play with. There's just loads of levers.
Do you find you get issues with your mash when you're going that high, sort of 40% ish, with the flaked products, or did you have to put rice hulls or anything like that in?
I do put a lot of rice hulls in there just in case, but I mean with a grain father, you haven't got to worry too much about it because you can obviously lift the basket up and you sparge and it's not too bad. You can't get like a stuck mash as such.
Yeah.
But,
Just out of curiosity, Dave, do you know somebody called Joy Goddard?
Joy Goddard.
Yeah.
My mum is. Oh, there she is. Yes, my mum.
Hi, Mum.
Oh,
Give her a wave, mate. Give her
Mum's
a wave.
in the house.
Hey. Hello, Dave's mum. How are you? Yeah, I'll be honest with you, buddy. I've not really experimented that much with hazies. I don't make that many of them, to be fair. And to know that you can go that high and get the kind of body and consistency of the beer that you use is something that moving forward I would probably, because you know me, I like to push back the frontiers a little bit, and to go that high and end up with a beer that was it was damn good. All right, to end up with a beer that's that good, I'll take that every day of the week and twice on Sunday. But what's the difference when you, and this is purely for me, all right, I know I'm kind of taking over a little bit, but what's the difference between using golden naked as opposed to flaked oats? What difference does that give you in flavour in the final beer?
sort of, the golden naked oats sort of give you it's sort of like a hint of sort of like caramelly sort of flavour, like a bit of sweetness. But then the problem I get with that is I want my sort of hazy beers to be really light in colour.
Right.
So I've just bought some, is it Simpson's Hannah Malt, which is like 2 EBC, I think. So I'm going to try and play around with that because it's obviously so much lighter, and then I might be able to then put in some golden naked oats as well. So the colour will be right, and you get a bit of sweetness as well. So yeah.
Who were we talking to who recommended a malt that was like 1.5 EBC? Who were we talking to? We had somebody on the podcast who was talking about that.
Don't know, can't remember.
Can't remember it. Well, somebody was talking about it anyway. Apparently, there's a malt that you can use which is like 1.5, which you can just build off, and it gives you a nice base. I don't know. Never
So
played with
Brett's in the chat asking if you've tried chip malt as an alternative to oats, Dave.
See, the last beer I brewed, which I've got a little bit left, I might be able to. Oh no, you've got one. The Tahoe beer. That was 20% oats, 20% wheat, and I think either 5 or 10% chip malt as well. So
well, that's kind of a dextrin malt, isn't it? It's perhaps not a direct replacement for oats and wheat, but will give you body.
Yeah, and
but not quite
head
that
retention
silky
as well.
Head retention, yeah.
So speaking of those beers, I think we should probably crack into one, right? Which one should we do first, Dave? I'll let you decide.
The Tahoe is
lowest
definitely
ABV.
the better one.
The Tahoe's the better one.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not having low ABV
And that
tonight,
is in
are we, Dave?
that is in ABV order, even though we're starting at 7%, so it doesn't really matter when the only way is up from 7, right?
So Dave's been very kind enough to send us 3 beers.
Ooh,
Do you want to tell us about the 3 beers really briefly? Just I know we're about to dive into this one, but give us a quick run through, Dave.
Yeah, so 2 of them are hazy beers. One of them was in our homebrew club. There was a guy called Colin, and he picked up a load of Mosaic. So we sort of all chipped in and bought this 5 kilo bag of Mosaic. So the oldest one's called Colin's Secret because I used a lot of the Mosaic, and then I put some Vic Secret in as well. That one is that the 7.5 one? And we've got Tahoe, which is my newest New England. That was Citra Mosaic at a 2-to-1 ratio. And then we've got a Tonka Stout, NP Stout. So is it 11.3, was it?
Death. That's the ABV of that one. The ABV is death.
Definitely trying to kill us tonight, Dave.
Can I just say, Dave, you're not fucking about when it comes to the bottling, mate. So the top of the liquid is there, like right at the bottom of the first ridge. So he's making sure you get your full portion, is Dave.
See, I don't do a lot of bottling, but quite a long time ago I bought one of the Nuka taps. I think you've got one, haven't you, Chris?
I've got one of the fillers. Yeah.
So I use that, and then as you're pulling it out, just give it a little tweak, and it just fills it up a little bit extra. So
that's what she said.
Giggity. I have to say that I've just had a slight nifter of this one, and it
smells amazing. The aroma is lovely.
Oh yeah.
Thanks.
That's dirty, mate.
I mean, yeah, it's Citra Mosaic, isn't it? It's just
you can't go wrong with Citra Mosaic.
Classic New England combo, really.
So what drove you to go for a 2-to-1 ratio?
I've heard that you get a better haze with Citra, so I've always sort of leaned into the more sort of Citra. And then with the Mosaic ones, the single hop Mosaic ones I've done, the haze hasn't been great. It's been like a bit, I don't know, it's like almost like a bit darker, a bit duller.
Oh, interesting.
You can't. I mean, I think Citra's. It might be my favourite hop. Although I just brewed the Malt Miller and Mysterious competition. Just used Crush, and that hop smells just so good.
Yeah,
So
I bought some.
That might be my new favourite hop.
Yeah, I bought some and I haven't tried. I haven't tried using it yet, especially given how outrageously expensive it was as well.
Yeah. Although I've had a problem with that beer with the old Inkbird dying.
Oh, yeah.
So
Mate, you need to go craft beer pie.
I do.
Yeah,
So-
Inkbird decided to stiff you.
If you could
What
just-
was it,
Fermentation.
33 degrees out?
Yeah. It went up to 40, 45 degrees out.
Mate, did
So
you use
did
it
the
as a
beer get
football?
cooked, or were you
No,
freezing the beer?
It went down to six degrees.
Okay.
So I had another Inkbird luckily, so I hooked that up, and it must have taken like, I don't know, 12 hours to get back up to 18 degrees.
It'll be fine.
And then I've ordered the Wi-Fi Inkbird now. So
They're very cool. They're very,
Yeah.
very cool.
hopefully the beer's all right.
It'd be fine, mate. The yeast just had a nap.
Yeah.
That's all it
Be-
is.
Better going that way than the other way. That's for sure. Like if it was, cooking along at like 40 degrees, I think you'd probably have more of an issue than
Yeah, that would be
getting
some
cold
funky
for a
beer.
bit.
It was USA 5, wasn't it, Dave?
Yes, yeah.
Is it kicked
No
back
worries.
off now you warmed out?
Yeah, I mean, I went there the next day when I changed it all over, and it was almost at terminal anyway. So I think it's just going to do a bit of clearing up now, and that should be done.
Sweet.
Well, very much like the Ice Pirates beer, this one is dangerously drinkable for the strength of it, and
Too drinkable.
I mean, it's just can't really fault that as a New England IPA, mate. That's spot on. Very
It's
nice.
Banging.
Cheers.
Yeah.
There's no
Very
hop
nice.
burn. It's got great body, great
Yeah.
aroma, great flavour. Yeah, I mean, I personally, I've got to be critical, mate.
Yeah,
Please accept it in the way that it's intended. I've got to talk about something on a podcast.
Here it comes.
I personally would say maybe bump the base IBUs up by about 4.
yeah. See, the thing is, I don't put any hops in the boil.
Not 5.
I
I
would
think
say
5 IBUs.
I just literally went with a guess. Okay. Now all I'm saying is I'm still getting a little bit of the alcohol burn, and if you bump the IBUs up a bit, you can hide that. That's
Yeah,
all
well,
I'm saying.
We were talking about this in Homebrew Club. I said I think I'm gonna maybe put some flame out hops in, just a small addition, like maybe like 5 IBU, because it adds like a different layer, doesn't it? As well.
So
Yeah,
what
a
is
bit
the
more
hopping schedule
complexity.
on this currently?
Let's have a look.
Essentially, Dave, what we're saying is, do you fancy sharing the recipe for this so people can make it?
Yes, of course.
There you go. We've got a recipe off of him, boys.
Cha-ching.
So it was an ATC whirlpool, but then it drops quite considerably, like quite quickly in the grain file. I don't know about you guys. Yeah, with only 25 sort of liters in there, the temperature drops so quickly. Where if I had like a bigger vessel, I'd probably whirlpool at maybe 76 or something, 77. So yeah, I'll do that for 20 minutes. It's got 100 grams of Citra, 50 grams of Mosaic, and then in the dry hop, it was 300 grams of Citra and 150 Mosaic. So it's got a lot of hops in it.
Oh, decent one.
It's
How long-
absolutely fucking stunning.
How long have you
Cheers.
had it in keg, Dave?
About 3 weeks, I think. 4
Okay.
weeks.
So it's pretty much hitting that like sweet spot.
You know, every so often I amaze myself at what's going off in my head, because my head just literally went, there's no hop burn. With the amount he's put in the would have been, that's about 3 weeks old.
Skills.
What can
Magic.
I say? No, it's not. It's just me being an arsehole, mate. But that's literally what I would have said, is that's been in keg about 3 weeks.
It's actually 3 weeks and 2 days, Chris. Sorry.
Oh, fuck, I'm just wrong. I'm leaving. Bye.
Uh,
No, it's gorgeous, mate. It's a really, really, really nice beer, and the way that you've managed to get it to be, because it's really, really smooth drinking. With some Neepers, you get that really harsh kind of hop hit. You don't get that at all with this. It's really nice and it's really smooth. And like Tricky said, it's dangerously drinkable, which could lead to some problems tomorrow because I've got stuff to do. So, yeah.
It's I think you're gonna have to clear your schedule, Chris. To be honest,
I think I am too.
I think given how drinkable these beers are, I mean, it's very silky.
Silky
that's
is
like,
definitely a
there you go,
good descriptor for that
contribution.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, very silky.
Very.
And I know, Dave, we've talked before in terms of your preference to style.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Well, we're on the subject of New England IPAs. That is probably my favourite style, yeah. Along with like Imperial stouts. I love them as well.
Is that?
But
yeah, go on.
I was going to say that the problem is, obviously you brew what you like. So I think maybe 75% of the beers I brewed have been New England IPAs. So this year, I'm thinking I want to kind of perfect my Westie.
Marzen. Do a Marzen.
Yes. I was going to say lager, and if it's going to be a lager, it's going to be a Märzen, definitely.
Definitely.
And I might do a Rauch beer as well.
I'll pass.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Do you not like a Rauch beer?
Each to their
Pass.
quite fancy a Rauch beer.
Oh, yeah,
I
like
think
it.
that's on my list of beers to make this year.
I'd make sure you clean the kit down really thoroughly before you put the next NEPA in after that, though. You don't want that, like...
I'd recommend some
a little bit of
NZ Brew
residual
cleaning that
smoke
one, mate.
on your next New England.
A Rauch Sneeper.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
wants to taste the
Do
brick.
you reckon
Smoked
anyone's
Sneeper.
ever done it? Smoky
Sounds
Sneeper?
weird, doesn't it?
Do it. Do it.
I reckon we should do a sour, smoky Sneeper.
Groundbreaking exploration of beer.
Challenge
styles going
accepted.
on there.
So, clearly, you have a bit of a thing for NEPAs and a bit of a thing
Yeah.
for impies. Okay? Now, are there any styles that you would actively say, "Niet, I'm not doing that"?
No, I don't think there's a style. I mean, I've sort of shied away from lagers in the past because, obviously, my beer drinking journey started with lagers, as most people, but then sort of went on to like bitters and ales, sort of fell in love with them, and then when the craft beer scene came in, I fell in love with, I don't know, things like Punk IPA, and then like Westies, and then New England IPAs, and I've pretty much been hooked on them since. So, but then, I've really started appreciating lagers more. So this is the year where I brew some lagers, brew some Westies.
Year of the lager for Dave.
This is the classic homebrewer cycle, isn't it?
It
It's
is.
like started
Yeah.
drinking Stella, then went through all the craft beers, hazy. Oh, actually, I really like lagers again.
Yeah.
As long as I make them and they're good quality, or I buy them from Germany, kind of seems to be the usual back to where we started kind of thing.
What comes
That's-
after that?
It's one of
Like,
those things, though, isn't it?
Farmhouse.
Yeah. I think
Mixed
then
firm.
then you have to go down funky
Spawn.
farmhouse road, don't you?
So I went from like New England to sort of the sweeter sours like Bolt City, and then the mixed firm sort of stuff, and then sort of back round to like Impies and New Englands again. Yeah.
There's a lot of people who make that journey, and it's kind of I'll hone my skills on this, that, and this, and then once I feel like I can brew relatively well, I'll aim for a style where there's nowhere to hide, and that's kind of what people do. And I think it's a confidence thing, to be perfectly honest. I think it's a lot of people just gain confidence with their brewing and then decide, you know what, I'm going to make a Pilsner.
Yeah.
Just to see how good I really am.
I think it's also people getting over the, like, I've got to get the beer out as quickly as possible and into keg and going, actually, I'm going to invest some time into a batch and go, like, I want it to be as good as it can possibly be, and I'm not just... Because I think, like, definitely for me, in the early days, I was quite like, well, I don't really want to be tying the equipment up for more than 2 weeks. I'll just churn beers out as quickly as possible. If I'm going to do a lager, I'll do it like the quickest, shoddiest, like half-assed method that I can do. Whereas now it's like, actually, let's go back to like all of this advice from, people from Budvar and the videos the Malt Miller did with those guys and the stuff from Utopian and all the rest of it, where it's like, slow the fuck down, take your time, invest time and effort into the process, and then hopefully you see the results from it. But it's still annoying that it does tie your brewing kit up for ages, but like I said, I think you can work around that.
Have you sort of sped up your lagers a bit over the years?
No, it's kind of the other way round, to be honest. I was started off trying to do them as quickly as possible, and would be using like 3470 and just pushing it up towards the top of the temperature range and stuff. And to be fair, that yeast can handle that pretty well, and you can still get fairly clean lagers without even worrying about pretty much getting up into ale temps with that yeast, to be honest, as long as you pitch enough of it. And then if you add pressure into the equation, you can push it even more and still kind of get away with it. But I think when you start using other lager yeasts and some of the more traditional strains, then you can't really get away with doing that, and you've got to step it back a bit and go for the lower temp and longer time period. And so I've got a couple of beers in the tank at the minute where I've just started experimenting with decoction mashing. It's literally the first 2 beers that I've tried that out with. So I've done the Budvar style Czech pills. I didn't follow the full Malt Miller double decoction method because I just read the instructions and had a bit of a meltdown because they were so complicated, and basically did my own sort of version of a double decoction, which was a lot more simplified than what was in their recipe. Obviously they were trying to recreate as close as possible to what Budvar do, but it was I'm sure anyone that's tried to follow that recipe will know what I'm talking about. And then I've just done the Smells Lagery recipe with a single decoction as well to see if that makes any kind of obvious difference to it.
See, maybe I should follow that for my first lager.
Could do.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably gonna do. We were talking about earlier in the week. We're probably gonna do an episode on decoction mashing, aren't we? I think it's probably enough there to talk about.
That might be part of the reason I've started doing it, because I felt like I better be able to actually talk about this if we're going to do a podcast.
Yeah.
So do you decoct to get to a different mash step, or do you decoct and then do it and put it back in for mash out, or is it different?
You can do both.
Do it either way.
Yeah. A lot of decoction recipes will be using the final decoction to take it up to mash out temperature, but then you can use it for the steps previous to that as well. So you could like a Hochhertz mash, which is basically a lower the lower enzyme range. Which is it, alpha or beta? That's the lower one.
Beta.
Come on, Chris.
I can't remember, mate. I'm halfway through 7% NEPA. Give me some slack.
So you can treat it just like adding, hot water to bring the temp step up for temp ranges that are in the active enzyme sort of area, or you can use it to take it up from like a protein rest up into the alpha amylase range, and so basically you can do whatever you want with it and add as many steps in as you want and whatever, but obviously you can extend the time you boil it for if you're only doing a single, and take more of the mash out, and variables are almost infinite with it, like almost everything else to do with brewing, really. So yeah.
I read a few really interesting articles into decoction after we talked about it, and I created a little calculator which should theoretically, based on volumes and things, actually allow you to specify a temperature that you want it to go to and from, and give you a volume and all the other bits and bobs that goes along with it. In Owen's case, it didn't work at all, not even remotely.
I mean, I will say, of my very limited experience of it, it does tend to struggle to push the temperature up as much as it's supposed to, according to the calculations and stuff. So, as with everything, I think use those as a guide, and then just adjust according to your own kit and what you see happening in reality. But Yeah, I mean, like the one I did last week was I was trying to use it to get up to mash out temp, and it ended up at 72 rather than like 76. So it does struggle sometimes. But I think, you lose temp so quick when you're transferring stuff around and all the rest of it. But
you'll get up to mash out temp pretty quick after that anyway, won't you?
yeah, exactly. And I've got the Herms coil as well, so I'll just like use that to raise it up as it's going along. And anyone who's using an all-in-one type system, if you're recirculating it, just it'll bring the temperature up pretty much straight away.
That's the benefit of an all-in-one. If you're recirculating your mash, then you should be able to just anything that the decoction doesn't do, you should be able to just do with your element. So yeah, I mean, I've got decoction on the cards as well. I've got my recipe set. It's going to be a Vienna lager. So yeah, I've got to work with this calculator and see if it works, see whether or not there's a lag on it when you dump the decoction back in. And I suppose a lot of it comes down to the distance between where you're doing the decoction and where your kettle is, because you're going to lose temp. So a lot of it comes down to that. But yeah, we'll see where we end up. It's one of those things you've got to work out what works best for your kit. So
for Gilles' question, Owen, you've done single decoctions, haven't you? I think
he did a double.
Chris,
no, I did a double. I've only done one decoction mash, and I did a double, which I would air caution to anyone that's looking at decoction that it did make for a very, very long brew day.
It added a substantial amount of time to mine as well.
So I'm going to consider, as I go forward, probably opting more for single decoction, just because then it's a balance, I think, in terms of time versus output.
Yep. I mean, I think obviously when you're trying these things out for the first time as well, there's a lot of like faffing around and checking and trying to see if you're doing the right thing or not. But I was thinking about it while I was doing the single decoction the other day, and I was thinking basically like if you did a single decoction to take it up to mash out temperature, and you kind of start that decoction kind of halfway through the actual mash time, you should be able to get away with not really adding much more than maybe 40 minutes. 20 minutes if you get it right down to like really like efficient sort of method for doing that. So I think obviously double decoctions and doing all that kind of stuff is going to extend your brew day significantly, but for a single decoction I reckon you can trim that time right down if you start the decoction mid mash, and basically just use it to bring you up to mash out, because then you don't really have to sit on it and wait much longer. Once it's in and you've mixed it up and you're up to that temperature, let it sit for a bit, because I think that's one thing that can trip you up a little bit if you start trying to recirculate straight away or drain the mash tun after you've just tipped a load of grain back in. You may have the grain bed
lump afterwards.
Grain bed's going to be disturbed as well, so you might end up with the mash sticking a little bit. But I think give it 5-10 minutes just to settle out, which seems to be work all right for me, and then you can proceed as normal, and you'll basically be at the end of the mash anyway. So
one of the things that I was looking at when it comes to it is there's so many variables within the decoction side.
Yeah,
you've got basically how much grain, what's your grain to liquor ratio when you're taking it out for the decoction. What's the distance between your mash kettle and where you're doing the decoction, because obviously that's going to have an effect. The temperature drops so quickly as well, doesn't it, from boiling point once you take it off the heat. Like it might be walk from the kitchen to the garage and it's now 94 degrees rather than 100, which is going to be a big difference. And that's kind of where my scientist side is coming out and going, I can't control these variables, I'm not very happy about this. So I'm on the lookout for a really nice induction hob to sit literally at the side of my...
I was going to say, the one thing that I found that made it much less hassle than what I thought it was going to be is because my kettle is on an induction hob. I've got one of the Buffalo induction hobs, and I basically just jugged mash out of the mash tun into the kettle, boiled it in that, and then literally picked the whole thing up and just tipped it back in, and that was it. And it was pretty easy to do. There was a bit of grain and sort of shit left over in the kettle, but then I just drained a bit of like clean wort out, tipped that back in and rinsed it around, and it was fine. That part of it was a lot less hassle than I thought. It was more just sort of fucking about trying to get the temperatures where I wanted them. That was taking a little bit longer.
There's a lot of variables within it, though. So,
and obviously, don't try and do that with an element kettle, because that's that's not going to work well for you. So
no, that's not going to work.
Definitely don't do that.
That is going to be a smoky beer inadvertently.
That'll be a Roush beer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you have to take into account with that, but it's something that we're all wanting to do. Obviously, Tricky's done it, Owen's done it. Just me and Andy left to do it. So yeah, I'll get round to it when the kids stop being a pain in the ass.
Should you think like a direct fire sort of like camping stove type thing would do?
I think a lot of people do use that. I think Brett said it.
That's a stir constantly moment. I
think that's what that comment is related to from Brett. To stir it as much as you can.
Yeah, don't let it stop moving, mate. Otherwise, you're going to end up with burnt shit.
I think you'd probably need. Yeah, I think you'd probably be all right on a reasonable sized camping stove. I put mine on just on the kitchen hob, but on like the biggest burner I've got, and that seemed fine. That was enough.
So I did hear direct fire is better for decoction. Is that right?
I've heard those rumours too. Yeah. My only issue is the only thing that I've got that's direct fire is a 9.3 kilowatt triple ring fucking propane burner.
The induction hob did work pretty well for it though, because obviously I was doing, I think, sort of 7-8 litres of mash kind of in the 3K induction hob, so it was, it was going some. It was definitely boiling pretty vigorously, and at the end of it looked like there was a little bit of colour sort of on there as well. The foam on it had a slightly golden hue to it, so it looked like there was some kind of caramel. Remains to be seen whether there's actually any flavour impact from it or anything noticeable in the beer, but it certainly looked like there was something going on in terms of the Maillard reactions and all the rest of it.
Hold up, Tricky, let's ask Owen, because he's got his double decocted Märzen currently on tap.
Yeah, I can tell you.
Yeah, tell us.
Yeah, Dave, you can try it next week.
Yeah, sounds good.
Lucky boy. I would say it definitely has made a difference, having made the Märzen quite a few times before. It's definitely like a depth of malt character and probably slight sweetness.
Yeah.
When you made it before, did you try putting like honey malt in there to give it that decoct taste?
I think I used. Good question. I used
melanoidin.
Or melanoidin, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I used. And whilst that sort of gets you there, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
So I would have said that the effort involved was worth it for
even
the
for
better
a double
outcome. Say again, Chris.
Even for a double decoction, was the effort worth it?
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was. It did make for a very long brew day. But
the 9-hour brew day.
It makes your brewery smell really nice. With that.
Yeah.
What was it, an extra 4 hours?
Well, I would have said it probably added 3.
That was for
which
double,
was a lot more.
That's my
than
normal brew day, man. I'm not doubling up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I typically would be like 4 hours for the brew day, so I reckon it was 6 to 7 hours.
Wow.
But it was first time round. Also, I ended up having to use 2 pots because I didn't have a big enough pot. I have now bought, I think it's a 17 litre stainless steel pot, which I got off Amazon, which was only 20 odd quid. It's super thin, but it's big enough to be able to get your decoctions done in a single pot. Just going to need to make sure I stir it a lot, which is fine. But yeah, you can try it on Friday, Dave, and you can be the judge.
Yeah, sounds good.
I've got to be honest with you, I'm currently on a malt mill looking at kettles. I don't know whether it's worthwhile buying a spare 25-litre kettle just for this.
I personally, no, I don't think so. The amount that I'm probably going to end up actually doing decoction mashing.
But
You've got
if
a
I end up with a
stock
hard-on for
pot and
decoction, man.
I mean, if you find
try it on the hob first, and then decide if that is the case, rather than jumping on buying a
I have a
kettle.
funny feeling Chris is going to be hooked on decoction.
I have a weird feeling I will as well, Dave, which is why I've held off doing it.
Yeah, I think honestly it does. It when you are in the game of trying to make incremental gains to improve your beer, then I would say you're gaining a good 4 or 5%, if not more.
Well, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to try it with the Smells Lagery recipe, because it was kind of like, I don't really want to change the recipe. What can I do with the process? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like the recipe's pretty sound and solid. That's where I want it to be. And other people have brewed it and like
use the phrase that you want
well
to, Tricky. It's competition winning.
It is, but I mean that's the point is I don't see any like thing in the recipe that I would want to change to try and improve it, because it seems like it's where I want that to be. So like the only thing left was really, okay, so what can I change in terms of process, either through fermentation profile or mashing? So decoction seemed like the place to go to with that, and obviously it's a Hellas export beer where traditionally a lot of breweries would probably be using decoction mashing, so that seemed like the logical next step, like you say, for kind of incremental gains or whatever, if you're going to do the that kind of approach. So anyway, massive decoction rabbit hole we've just fallen down there.
And I think we're probably going to carry that rabbit hole on in a future episode this year.
For sure, yeah.
And really get into the technicalities of it, which will be fun.
I think the 12-litre stainless steel brew kettle from the Malt Miller for 110 quid, with the tap and the thermometer already installed, is probably what I'm going to jump down in order to do my decoctions.
Well, maybe experiment first, Chris.
No, fuck that, man. Jump in with both feet.
You've got a
go
big
for it.
stock pot, haven't you? Just
I
use
don't.
big stock
That's the
pot.
weird thing. We binned it the last time we had a clear out of the loft,
Okay.
so it's gone.
Oh, in that case, throw some money at the Malt Miller.
Fuck
then.
it.
Why
Who
not?
cares? Let's go. Let's do this.
Do it.
Let's do
Do
it.
it. Oh, Dave's cracking another one, and I'll be honest, mate, I'm right there with you.
This is
Boys,
Tricky's Westie.
Oh, hello.
all right. Hello.
It's all about the Westies tonight.
Didn't know
I'd
you
have
had one of those still.
I've literally
He's
just smashed
changing
my
it
beer. Now I'm going to get another beer.
I promised Claire that
I
I'll share all these beers with her, so I've got to pour
Yeah.
her one as well.
Is that the old school Westie? Is that what it says on the label? I can't. Trying to remember which one I said.
West Coast Pale Ale.
Oh, West. Okay.
Oh, for God's sake, I've lost my tab now.
Liam's asking us to not make him spend any more money. But you've
Liam,
got some money.
don't spend any more
You've got
money.
vouchers for the Malt Miller, Liam. Spend them.
I think he's already spent them.
Yeah, that one's got lots of El Dorado in it, Dave. It's got a very El Dorado sort of watermelon candy note to it. I think.
Yeah, that's nice. Really
Yeah.
nice. Mm.
I can
So
have a
that-
beer off. Wonderful.
Those Malt Miller vouchers are dangerous because I got £70 worth of Malt Miller vouchers for Christmas and ended up spending 250 quid in Malt Miller. So yeah, dangerous.
Have you guys read the chat? So Liam's saying don't make me spend any more money, and then he's gone, oh, it's out of stock, thank God. And then Ron's gone, yeah, it happened to me on the last pod. I didn't need a grain mill until the last pod. And now clearly he does.
Sorry,
It's
listeners.
weird. We talk about these things and we joke that, we try to bring information to the masses and everything, and that's what we do. We want... And I said it to Tricky when we started the podcast. I said, if we help one brewer improve their beer by 1%, then everything that we've done is worthwhile.
We're helping
Okay.
people spank their bank balance at the
Well,
moment. I don't know about
that
improving
appears
their
to be
brewing,
all
but...
we're doing. But there's all these people now who are like, they're listening to us and they're listening to the arguments that we're making for something, and they're spending money, and hopefully it's improving your beer. That's kind of all I hope, because otherwise some fucker's going to send me a bill for £15,000.
Robert the Malt Miller's just sat in the background.
He's going, yeah. Which, to be fair, I don't begrudge him one single penny, because he provides an amazing service.
I mean, that's the point of being a sponsor.
Exactly. And even if he wasn't a sponsor, he does provide an amazing service. So the kind of the main thing for us is, if we can help you guys and guide you through stuff, that's what we want to do. But Dave's already bought a brewery, so we don't really need to guide him at all, except for say, if you don't make a Marzen and send me a shitload of cans, you're dead to me, mate. Basically, I will do that. You are dead.
The problem with me buying a brewery is, I want to buy lots of homebrew gear, but then I think, well, but for instance, you mentioned a mill. I haven't got a mill. I just get all my stuff crushed. So I want to buy a mill, but then I'll buy a small homebrew mill, but then I need to buy a brewery mill as well.
Yeah,
so,
you do.
So I'm kind of holding off at the moment. So yeah.
Well, you'll pick one up, mate. You'll pick one up with a hopper and all the other bits and bobs. It'll only cost you £8,000. It's fine. So yeah.
We can come back to incremental gains of one of the questions that we had on the list for you, Dave.
True.
As far as in terms of like your brewing up to this point, what do you think are the things that have really kind of made a big step change in terms of like quality of your beers, or any part of the brewing process really? What are the things that have been like game changers, I guess, for you up to this point?
I mean, I would say as a home brewer, obviously oxygen is probably going to be the biggest thing, but my friend Ollie sort of taught me to ferment, sort of not ferment under pressure, but potentially ferment under pressure, but then do closed transfers as well. So I never, apart from those dodgy bucket beers that I made like a few years ago, I've always had, haven't had oxygen as a problem.
Yeah.
But
I think that's a really good point on the kind of pressure fermenting thing. I think for me, it's like, it's not really about the pressure as such. It's just
not
about
at all.
that closed process and being able to do the transfers afterwards, and knowing like I've not had anything going in. It's always been positive pressure going out, sort of thing, from the fermenter. But
because I fermented under pressure once, and then after that, it's just been like, well, I'll just sponge at the end just to get a little bit of carbonation, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's one of the main things, and it's one of the things that we talked about offline. I've spoken to Owen about it, and I've spoken to Tricky and Andy about it. Essentially, it's like, pressure fermentation sounds fucking wonderful until you do it. And then you realise that the only reason you've got a spunding valve on the top is to add a bit of carbonation and not let any oxygen in there at all. That's the biggest improvement with your brewing, is zero oxygen. Pressure fermentation, it comes and it goes. Let's just get no O2 in there. You know what I mean? Big thing.
Especially for the kind of beers that Dave's making as well.
Totally.
Primarily, like.
Totally.
Yeah, it's clearly working, Dave, because you can't make a beer with 20 to 30% oats in it and
not make it purple.
Yeah, and have oxygen go near it, essentially, and clearly that beer's got no oxygen.
The only time it's seen oxygen, mate, is when you put it in a glass.
So anything else apart from fighting off the oxygen, Dave?
It's just sort of note taking is probably a massive thing for me. Just taste the beer at all different points of the brewing process, and then make notes. And then what did you like about it? What didn't you like? Maybe a few little ideas of what you're going to do next time. All the way through the process, but at the end you've got like a list of things that you potentially might do, and then you can then think about those things and implement like one or two of them.
Failure is a better teacher than success.
One thing I would say is don't change too many variables at one time, which is I'm a nightmare for that.
Scientific approach.
I'll change the hopping rate, but then I'll also change the final gravity and a different malt, and then I really enjoy it. I think, oh yeah, that's better than the last one. But I'm like, why was it better? So yeah, I've kind of learnt from that.
Yeah, you have to be a bit careful, don't you? And it's all too easy to get into a recipe and then just start like tweaking around, and then before you know it, you've changed like 8 variables, and it's an entirely different beer.
Yeah, I know somebody who did that with my Mertzen recipe. I can't remember who it was. No, there you go. He's gone. He's gone.
He's not here.
Yeah, there you go. He's disappeared with his Volcom hoodie. The one thing that I would ask you, Dave, and I'll be honest with you, this is a question that I really wish I'd asked a few other brewers. To be fair, what breweries and specific beers have inspired you down this journey that you've gone? Because it's a hell of a journey from I'm an interested homebrewer with a G30 to I've just bought a massive fucking brewery from Sure Shot.
Well, I guess it all started with drinking BrewDog, sort of punk IPA sort of stuff. Fell in love with the bitterness of that IPA. I'd never drunk anything like that before. Sort of more recent, obviously, track beers are probably one of my favourites. I've got a Gold Top track beer here for later. There's Flock Brewery. They're one of my favourites. Beak is another one.
Beak makes some bangers.
You can see a pattern here with the Hazy.
Can't argue with any of those. No.
Nah. They do produce some amazing beers. It's what else influences your style to brewing aside from just your taste in beers then? Because clearly there has to be an inspiration.
I think I get a lot of inspiration from sort of the American breweries. Like Fiden's, Brewhouse, the t-shirt I'm wearing. Just listen to like podcasts about the American sort of stuff, and then they go through the recipes, and then you can kind of think about what you might like about those recipes, and then you can implement them in your own.
Speaking of American breweries, one which has really blown my mind recently is, have you tried any beers by Great Notion?
The Brewhouse head brewer works for Great Notion. He's a brewer at Great Notion, but then he started his own brewery, which is Brewhouse.
Mate, you've got
just
to get
incredible.
some of the Great Notion breweries. They are. I also, weirdly enough, one of the descriptors on the, I can't remember what the last beer what I had, the one with the Dios de la Muerte stuff on the front, was they said mangosteens.
I remember
one of the flavours. Yeah, I fucking found the bastards in Costco today. There are mangosteens in Costco. And I didn't even know what a mangosteen was, but apparently they've got them in Costco. So yeah, that's my contribution to this one.
Love
Seriously, you have to give their beers a try. I'm emailing people as we sort of sit here and talk, trying to encourage somebody from Great Notion to come on the pod. Because oh my god, it'd be awesome to see what they actually do.
I'm going to Great Notion next April, so
yeah, I don't like you right now, Dave.
I'll put a word in for you.
It's been a great podcast, Dave. Right, we'll see you later.
Thanks, buddy. You had your beer.
Good on
Bye.
you, mate. Are they West Coast or East Coast?
They're on Portland, Oregon.
Yeah,
Portland.
They're total West Coast.
There's so many good breweries in Portland. Just incredible.
Yeah, Portland's supposed to be like, doesn't it have the most breweries?
Yeah.
Of any state, I think.
So we're thinking of going over for my birthday in April, and I think we're going to go to like Russian River, then sort of maybe go to some hop farms, Idaho, Washington sort of area, and then
sounds like a good tour.
Portland, Oregon definitely is on the list.
Yeah, for sure. I'm pretty sure that triple IPA that I had last podcast was a collab between Omnipollo and Brewhouse.
Oh yeah, I tried that.
It was called,
that was really
it was called The End, and it was absolutely phenomenal. All Citra triple IPA. It blew my head off.
Yeah, it was so good.
Right, you guys can sit there as long as you want. I'm cracking Colin's secret.
It was wild. I just had a couple of thoughts because Dave, I know you're a very avid follower of podcasts, aren't you? And I've noticed that you're a deep reader of brewing. I understand that you managed to get through the entirety of our backlog. Was it 1.5 speed that you listened to it?
It was 1.2.
1.2 speed, nice.
So you sound completely normal, but the intro music, like when you played it earlier, I was like, it just sounds so slow because I'm used to listening to it so much faster. It's gone from like a drum and bass track to like a very mellow.
Yeah, a mellow metal track.
Well, I do a lot of commuting for work, so like, I could easily do like a 6-hour commute, like, round trip. So I just stick a podcast on. I want to sort of listen to as many as I can. So listen to it at 1.2. People probably think I'm mad.
I think, didn't you get through the entirety of our sort of 100 episode backlog in, was it like 2.5 weeks or something?
Oh, I can't remember. It wasn't long, was it?
That's a lot of bullshit to listen to in 2.5 weeks.
200 hours.
It was painful.
Yeah. Cheers, mate.
I mean,
is there any other podcast you'd recommend?
Sounds like a form of torture, to be honest.
Yeah,
doing that.
It's definitely a form of torture.
There's I listen to a lot. I've just started listening to the modern brewer. But again, it's a bit more sort of commercial brewery focused. Like they were talking about, like CO2 recovery systems and things like that. But you got This Week in Craft Beer, which is sort of Rob Cheshire, and he sort of talks to different UK breweries. But really good ones, the Craft Beer and Brewing magazine in America, because it gets really big sort of American brewers, but then they go through their like full recipes and like why they put things in the recipe. So it's, if you're into writing your own recipes, that one's really good.
They do little snippets on YouTube, I think, for them, don't they, as well? And you get a few tasty little tips off of people. They had the guy from Fiden's doing stuff recently, and Green Cheek as well, which was funny. He did the cheesiest intro I think I've ever seen on a YouTube video. It was that sort of like, "Oh hey, didn't see you there, guys."
Oh dear.
Oh my god.
That was a good one. That was the Q.
Everything
the
after
Q&A.
that was great, but the intro was almost that bad that I had to turn it off. So it was just like, wow.
I mean, where have you got your sort of information in your sort of brewing journey? Is it more like YouTube or forums or podcasts?
Scientific journals mostly, and a few books.
I guess in part
Science.
it's probably experiential, right? I know that we all read quite a few books, but I think actually the biggest influence, I speak for myself here, is just this podcast itself. In that, we are regularly meeting, we're planning podcasts, there's 4 of us all coming with a different perspective and a different background, and we're able to kind of, in a sense, collectively learn. And so that's definitely sort of driven my brewing learning.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think I started off initially spending a lot of time on forums, which is where I bumped into Chris, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
And then it was kind of like progressed that onto kind of Facebook. Well, I say Facebook. I think Facebook's always been more of like a social thing rather than a learning thing for me, to be honest. But lots of stuff off of YouTube. But I totally agree with Owen. Like, since doing the podcast, and especially since having guests and stuff on, it's like, well, I'm talking to people face to face now, and like, straight from the horse's mouth. I don't really need to go and search for the information when I can ask the brewer of like my favourite ever brewery, like, how do you make your beers so good? So that's definitely.
I think podcasts are the one for me. I mean, like I said, with the commuting, I just sit there.
Yeah.
You take it all in. I mean, I don't have 6 hours where I can sit down and read a book. I tried to read Scott Janish's book so many times, just in little tiny little bits.
I did read that. I think that is a really good book, but I had to chip away at that, and I think it took me about 6 months to kind of get through it.
I'm still
bit
nowhere
by bit,
near.
but yeah.
Nowhere near reading it.
But then it's kind of like one of those things where by the time you finish that, then it's kind of a lot of it is almost out of date by that point anyway. So
Totally.
like there's stuff in that book about files which was pre, and there's loads of stuff on his website that is much more up to date, by the way. So I'm not trying to like shit on the book or anything, but obviously at the point when he wrote that, the whole files thing was kind of pre-file specific yeasts and all the rest of it. So he was talking about it literally just in the like initial kind of research phase, as far as there's this thing from winemaking where there's these files and it's actually present in a lot of the beer ingredients as well, but they're not necessarily accessible, blah 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 blah. So yeah, books are great, but yeah, can take a while. And is that another parent on the
Hi, Dad.
My man Dad in the chat.
He went on his jollies this morning.
Oh, he's gone to the Canaries, has he? Well,
Yeah,
Very nice.
what a fucking dude.
Oh, John,
Welcome, John.
I hope you've got a beer in your hands.
And if you haven't, why not?
Yeah. It might not be quite as good as this beer that your son's made, but
No, I don't know if you guys have actually cracked Colin's secret.
I have.
I've
I've got to say one
I'm-
thing. What you said about Mosaic not giving that like haze might be a bit of a factor on this one. It's pretty clear for a
sort of.
IPA.
I mean, it is a lot older than the
Yeah.
other one, so it might
As
have
it just dropped a bit
clearer
clearer in the keg. It
Yeah.
tastes really good.
tastes
but
good.
yeah, it's not. It's definitely not quite got the opaque haziness of the last one.
Don't take this personally, Dave, right? We are running a podcast, and I have to give some sort of contentious points, but I don't like this one as much as I like the last one.
I told you guys that the other one was better, and you went for the best one first, which you shouldn't have done.
I mean, it's Tricky's fault.
works.
Yeah,
What?
We'll
mate.
blame Tricky. But
I thought you were telling us to drink the best one first, but yeah, it's my
one
fault.
one thing that I will say about this one is I'm getting I often talk about this and people take the piss out of me for it, but at the end of your palate, when you've had a mouthful, I'm getting a really strong tropical fruit and blueberry vibe, which is kind of rolling off of my tongue. And the initial hit of this beer is kind of, I don't know how to describe it.
Dad's on the rum and coke.
He's on
He's
can't
on
fault
a
him,
mad
to be
one.
fair.
I think. See, one thing is, I think the Vic Secret was quite a little bit aggressive.
I'm
there.
getting lemon.
And the other thing was,
I've always thought Vic Secret's a little bit gnarly, but
I did the Whirlpool,
yeah.
Obviously in the G40, and I could see the temperature dropping quite quickly. And I put the heater on, just for like, well, it was supposed to be for like 10 seconds, just to warm it up slightly. But then something caught my attention I had to deal with, and then it was on there too long, and it just spiked the temperature. I think it went to 82, so it might have a little bit more bitterness than I wanted as well.
It's not bitterness, it's a flavour. It's kind of preserved lemon without the salt is probably the best thing that I can come up with. There's a definite citrus vibe to it when you first take a hit, and then right at the end, as it rolls off your tongue, as you exhale after the drink, it's like straight up blueberry, tropical, mango and kind of passion fruit vibe that rolls across your tongue, and it's gorgeous. And then you get that final sort of tinge of caramel right at the very, very end. I'm not saying it's a bad beer, because it's a good beer, but what I'm saying is, personally, for my palate, I prefer the other one with that kind of heavy grapefruit that I was getting off of that. It's a really good beer, but it's not unpleasant. It's a little bit strange, is kind of all I'm saying.
I said exactly the same thing. And I blamed that spike, but it could have been anything.
I think it's just also the Vic secret.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Generally.
weird hop.
It's quite aggressive, I think.
I don't get on that well with Vic Secret, to be honest, and it's a difficult one to manage, particularly in like soft, sort of hazy beers. I think because it's almost more. I know we bag on like Galaxy quite a lot, but I think Vic Secret is actually almost more
If you
aggressive.
look at the flavour profile of Vic Secret, and it sounds amazing. And then this is the first time brewing with it, and I was like, oh, I'm not sure.
Well, it does have like tropical pineapple-y stuff, but I think like Chris was sort of saying like westy kind of vibes as well, and it has got that sort of resiny bitterness to it as well. And I think to me it is almost like
it's
more
quite a complex. It's quite a complex hop.
Yeah, there's some herbal kind of notes to it as well, which can come
leads you
through.
to believe it's going to be this amazing like sort of. I don't want to be disingenuous to Citra Mosaic and those type that they're kind of one-dimensional, aren't they? They're kind of they're punchy and they give you a lot of that thing. It's Ronsil. It sort of does what it says on the tin. Yeah. Whereas Vic Secret, it's.
I just bought a load of Nelson and Ruaka.
Nice.
To go.
Oh mate, you're in for a good beer. You're in for a good beer.
This is, if I can get, I think I'm going to brew Monday if I can. And
Motueka.
For nationals, hopefully.
Motueka. Get some Motueka in there as well.
I would say with Ruaka as well, treat that one with a little bit of caution because it can be quite aggressive too. Not quite in the same way as Australian hops, but like Ruaka is the one that will... bring a bit of that sort of diesel-y like character more so than the Nelson.
Whirlpool lower.
So I would, like kind of like we were talking about in terms of ratios and stuff. I'd have make Ruaka like a smaller portion versus the Nelson.
Yeah,
would
definitely.
generally be my sort of tip with that.
Or
Nelson.
Dave, my
though.
tip for Nelson is my tip for Ruaka would be as your whirlpool temperature drops, throw it in at the end.
Yeah.
For like 5 minutes. Don't dump it in at the start at like 80. Wait until it's like 60-ish. Right? And give it sort of 5 minutes at 60. It brings out the softer characters of it. If you want that heavy kind of diesel flavour, go higher with the temperature. My personal experience is it's much lower.
Yeah, okay. I'm playing around with Spectrum and Incognito with this one as well, so that'd be interesting.
Are you ball hopping it or ball dipping it, whatever they called it?
Ruaka's quite an interesting one actually because it when it sort of first came about, it was very very difficult to get hold of, and I think it was all, in a way it was similar to like Galaxy there was very limited supply of it because there was only certain farms producing it. Obviously, when it first sort of came out, and then as the production has expanded, I think to a lesser extent in New Zealand, because obviously it's probably a much smaller sort of overall size kind of hop production or whatever, but a little bit like Galaxy in terms, I think, as that production level has expanded, I wouldn't say the quality's gone downhill, but like the character of the hop has definitely changed a little bit, where it's become a bit more angry and has that diesel-y kind of character to it at times. So Lance dropped into the chat that he won the West Coast comp for I think it was Beer Balls, was it, that his beer had a lot of Ruaka in, and I've used it in an old school Westie, and it does really suit that type of beer really really well actually, because it brings a kind of almost like a old school American sea hop kind of grapefruity note if you use it in the right way. It
brings that comet note, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The comet, that kind of note. It's an incredible hop if used appropriately, but it can be the kind of hop that will trip you up.
Yeah, it's another one that's very complex as well.
Let's go.
Is that it? He's made the call for the Impy.
Can I answer a couple of the questions in the chat? Like,
of course, go for it.
Ron says, will it be a full-time job or like a weekends and evenings? But I've got a full-time job that I do love my job. So until I physically cannot do both anymore, I'll be working my Monday
You're
to
another
Friday.
one of these lunatics that's going to run a brewery and do a full-time job.
Just like Hoddy, you know, I'll maybe brew at the weekends, open the tap room on a Friday and Saturday night, and just it's probably madness, but you know, I enjoy my job now. I enjoy brewing, so you know, I'm going to be happy.
We have another listener called Martin Hodinot who owns a brewery. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's Maverick or something like that. Yeah. I know perfectly well. I'm just taking a piss. But he basically took 27 years to get his beers into cans. After you start up, how long before you get your beers in cans, Dave? Because if it's not quicker than Hoddy, you're dead to me again.
It's just tricky getting a mobile canner in and meeting their minimum requirements. But yeah, I'll get them in can as soon as possible.
That's cool. Okay. Next question would be, there you go, Teddy G. What would you say personally is the best substitute hop for Galaxy when it was at its best?
That's a good question. Difficult one to answer as well.
Crush?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Crush is pretty good. Was Crush 586?
Yes.
Yeah.
586, definitely. That's a really good substitute.
I mean, it's like a real fruit salad thing.
Yeah, I think as far as like a fruit salad bowl, citrus blend type flavour, 586 is probably somewhere near 2016 like Galaxy.
I've never had another hop like Galaxy, really. It's got that bouquet of fruit, but then also that kind of...
There's the passion fruit thing from it as well, I think, isn't there? But...
I can't even put my finger on the flavour. It's like a Galaxy sort of
resin.
Yeah, resinous, yeah.
Yeah. It's an incredible hop if you can get a good version of it, but yeah, it's... I don't know. That's
the question of like, are you comparing it to like current Galaxy or
2016
when it was at its peak, when it was literally
I think
fruit salad? And
I think one of the problems was a lot of breweries just went mental on the Galaxy and they just put shitloads in their beers and maybe overdid it a little bit.
Well, Tom Bacon, Bath Haas guy, gave us quite a bit of insight on that one, didn't he? As far as how it changed after all the bigger kind of hop farms started trying to churn it out too quickly, and basically the way that it works in Australia, where they're blending the whole harvest into one, it was kind of taking the quality down because there were so many farms that were putting the Galaxy out when it was not.
So you've got like
good,
a cooperative between all the farms.
Yeah, essentially the hop. I've forgotten what the name of it is, but the hop growing Australia, whatever it is, co-op, it all goes into one big pot essentially and gets sort of blended together. As far as I know, I might be talking absolute bollocks. But...
Oh, Dave, you're a dirty man.
Getting attacked by the cat.
You're a dirty man. Oh, that thing needs to go out of a window.
What's wrong with it? Has it got alopecia?
It's a werewolf cat.
A werewolf.
Werewolf cat.
They're called werewolf cats. Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh.
I hate cats, right?
My sister used to have two of those Sphinx cats, and it was basically like a giant clawed ball sack. Like, it was just they're horrendous creatures.
Yeah, we've got a couple of them as well.
Have you?
I was seriously considering getting a Maine Coon.
Show us your feline ball
sack. I've got one of them as well.
A Maine Coon?
Got a Maine Coon, a werewolf cat, and 3 what's called Peterballs, which do look like nutsacks.
The Maine Coon, I've seen some large variances of Maine Coons, and they're essentially a fucking bobcat. They're fucking enormous.
Mine's like a dwarf Maine Coon. So like you get a Maine Coon because they're massive, but this one's tiny. So I think I got stitched up.
I don't think you fed it enough.
I think you might have been robbed on that.
Yeah.
I would happily have a Maine Coon because it looks like it could fucking protect your house. But
anyway, tell us about this Impy, Dave, because this is pretty special. The Tonka bean aroma on this Tonka's like a very unique thing, but yeah, what do you do with the Tonka, like quantity, and how do you add it in?
Do you guys know a brewery called Low Key?
Heard of them.
Heard of them, yeah.
They're in Ashford, and a lot of their beers have Tonka in. So I spoke to Drew, one of the brewers, and he said put one Tonka bean in the keg 24 hours before you're going to bottle. So that's what I did.
Really? Okay. That's an incredible amount of flavour if that's all you've done.
Low Key's not too far from Moot, actually, because on the way back from Low Key last year, popped into Moot and saw Calvin in that.
They are wizards when it comes to their hop combinations. They're very, very good.
I want to try their new butter. Is it like Butterly or something?
Battery beers, yeah. I'm not sure what. Maybe they've just had a diac problem and decided
I just want to say,
that's not true, by the way.
I want to address the chat.
Pure
okay?
speculation, no libel here.
First off, cats are not A's, cats are vermin. Okay? If a cat if there was any other animal that sharpened its claws on your fucking legs, you would kill it instantly. Right? The second thing is, cats do not fucking rule. Cats, no. Just fucking no. There is no other pet that we have that shows you such absolute hatred, and yet you still treat it like a fucking king. Alright? So fuck off with the cat love. Alright? But Maine Coon cats are cool because they look like they could kill you.
Well,
yeah,
I think we might have just lost 50% of our listeners.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, Chris.
All you cat-hating fucks can fuck off.
That's not a universal opinion on the podcast. I don't have a cat, but I also don't hate them.
Vermin. They shit on roofs. They're like pigeons.
It's gone from a lager podcast to a cat-hating podcast.
Yeah,
it would seem so. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's the fact that Chris doesn't like Simcoe.
He does look strange.
I don't know.
I'd just like to say that I
do see
joking.
where the werewolf name comes from, though, because he's definitely giving me like that American werewolf in London look.
I will
go
say,
to the toilet in the night and find that.
Exactly.
I would just like to say at this particular point that I am joking. I appreciate that people love cats. I like hamsters. Let's just leave it at that. Okay?
Cats like hamsters as well.
That's the problem.
Is it because you love hamsters so much, Chris? Is that where your hatred comes from?
No, my hatred for cats comes from
Was there an incident when you were younger and a hamster died?
No, I was 13 or 14 years old. I went round to my mate's house and they had a cat. And it jumped up on my lap and I was stroking it and it was wonderful and everything was awesome. And then the fucking thing decided to stick its claws into my fucking thighs for some reason. And at that point I decided cats were vermin.
Liam mentions a Savannah F1. We looked into getting one of them. It's fucking massive. So almost a
cat.
Almost a wild cat, yeah.
What, bigger than a Maine Coon?
It's like I think it comes from a serval, like a serval cross with domesticated cat.
A serval is basically a wild cat, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. They're insane.
Well, I'm going to have to go and Google this now.
Maine Coons are fucking huge.
Broadly speaking, people are either cat people or dog people.
I'm going to say that I was joking and I constantly bang on about cats. And the main reason that I dislike cats is because of next door's cat and his ability to try and hunt my fucking hedgehogs, which never ends well for him, which is hilarious.
That's a bold fucking move, I've got to say. It's got to be a randy cat to try and fucking...
I mean, you've got a gigantic ball of spikes and the cat's having a pop. Yeah, good luck for you, Mr. Cat.
I mean, an F1 Savannah does look pretty cool.
I'm back in 2 secs.
Pretty cool. Anyway, we've gone down a cat rabbit hole for some reason.
This Simply Stout is
cat
legit.
Fell down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, we got as far as talking a little bit about Tonka bean.
Had a fight with a hamster, apparently.
I remember Dave saying to me that, because I'm sure a few of us have had beers with Tonka in, and personally, I think Tonka is a bit of a love-hate thing. It's a bit Marmite for some people. I think sometimes Tonka can present as quite shampooey and it's quite fragrant.
Yeah, it's got that sort of vanilla-y, perfumey kind of...
It's an odd...
bit of... Yeah. Well, it's difficult to put your finger on it because it's not a flavour that you have in anything else.
It's
is it?
totally
It's,
unique to itself, isn't it? It's quite aromatic in a way. It's really hard to describe, but
It's a strange flavour.
my point was that people either love it or they hate it. And I remember Dave saying that Loki recommended that only use one bean. They said like you should grate it, so use like a nutmeg grater, which I think probably is part of the reason why they say then to add it for such a short duration before you keg or bottle, because of course that, you know, contact, if you're grating it, it's going to be that bit higher. They said never crush it. I don't know why that was. We'd have to ask Loki themselves. I'm not sure Dave knows. I ended up crushing Tonka beans in the past. Didn't have a particularly bad experience doing that. I think I put them in a bag and smashed them with a wooden rolling pin. But I personally love Tonka, and interestingly, I gave Dave because Dave was my Secret Santa at Christmas for the Patreon Secret Santa piece.
And it was my Secret Santa, hence the T-shirt.
Yeah, so there you go.
Thanks again, Dave.
A little bit incestuous. And I gave Dave a bottle, I think maybe even the last bottle of my Tonka chocolate and coconut stout, and honestly, it's almost exactly the same. Like I'd smell it and I'm like, oh, that tastes a lot like the beer I made.
Yeah, they were very
It's
similar.
a great combo. So for anyone looking to make an Imperial Stout, Tonka chocolate and coconut, it's a good combo.
Oh, I've got to be honest with you. I'm not enjoying this as much as I did the one that you sent me at Christmas, mate. The Tonka's a weird flavour. I'm trying to get around it. It's a weird flavour.
You did say previously that you weren't too sure about Tonka.
I'm not, mate. I'm confused about Tonka in the same way that I'm confused about hybrid cars. It's a weird one. You know, I get it. I understand.
It's a weird analogy as well, but
I understand the theory and I get the science, but do you know what? I'm glad that the Tonka's not. So I got a Tonka bean stout from Brett, and he did his, and it was lovely, and I could drink it. But the problem was, it was a flavour which seems to override everything else.
That's why I put just one bean in, because if you any more than that, it goes mental.
I'll be honest with you, mate. Probably half a bean would have been enough. It's a very big flavour. It's a very in-your-face flavour, and you have to kind of taste around it to get to where you want to be. It's a big flavour. I'm not saying it's disgusting or bad in any way. I'm getting a lovely coconut vibe from it, which I'm really enjoying. But it seems to end up with every exhale, I'm getting that Tonka, and I understand that's what you've gone for.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's difficult.
I think it sort of depends what type of stout you're going for. Like, this is clearly more of your sort of dessert stout style of Impy, right? But I do agree with you, Chris, that I think Tonka bean can sometimes kind of mask the malt complexity that you'd be looking for in a Impy stout. So really, the malt is not necessarily the star of the show. It's more the icing on the cake.
Yeah, I get where you're going for. I understand that you're aiming for a top note. I don't know. It's masking the chocolate and it's masking the coconut, and I'm struggling with the fact that the Tonka seems to be the end of every kind of mouthful that I'm taking. That's the bit that I'm struggling with. It's a lovely beer. It's very well made, and the coconut's gorgeous. Just fuck the Tonka off next time and give me more chocolate. Is what I'm saying.
First beer I ever brewed was
Dave. Don't worry about it. He hates cats and he hates Tonka.
I do.
I am enjoying the Tonka flavour. I think I'm a fan of Tonka beans, to be fair. So yeah.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying that at all.
It's all right if you don't like it, Chris. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like Owen was saying, it's a Marmite thing. Some people like it, some people don't.
I like Marmite.
I don't mind it. It's quite nice.
I like Marmite. Don't fucking hate me.
I think the point is you can like Marmite and not like Tonka beans, Chris. That's
good.
Fine.
That's okay. That's fine. I like Maine Coon cats as well. That Serval, I've just looked up the Serval F1. That thing is fucking massive.
The cat's like attacking me.
It's looked like it's going to hunt everything.
Oh, it will for sure. It will.
Now, hang on.
I want one.
Hang on, breathe. Everybody just breathe for a second. Dave.
Yep.
I am planning on making a cherry Imperial stout shortly. Clearly, we've had some good impies from you. Okay? Any tips for me? Because the impy that you sent us, the one that you sent us for Christmas, was, honestly, it was fucking mind-blowing. I struggled to find a single thing about that beer that I did not like. Okay, and I tried really hard. All right?
I'll just get the recipe for it.
Send it to me. Send me that recipe, because I'm going to chop off whatever you put in and just throw a shitload of cherries in.
See, with that one, with the one that I sent you, I upped the IBU quite substantially because it's going into barrel for 5 months.
There you go.
Also upped the final gravity because the barrel would sort of thin it out slightly. So it will be a very different beer, but yeah. Are you gonna brew a stout and then put it onto, like, condition it on cherries?
No, I'm going to make a stout. Well, yeah, I suppose I am. I've recently taken delivery of an Apollo, so I have a stainless steel fermenter which will do 30 psi if needed. I'm planning on making the MP. I want to get as high a final gravity as I can. I'm aiming for about 11%. And then I'm planning on adding a shitload of cherry puree to kind of throw that cherry chocolate kind of flavour into it. Hopefully with some raisin from some of the bits that I'm kind of adding to it. But I really need a good base for an impy. And I'm not being funny, mate. Not to stroke your ego or your cock any more than we already have, but the impies that you've sent me have been phenomenal. They've been really, really good. Excuse the Tonka. If you took the Tonka beans out of it, I'd probably already finished it. But the main thing is I need a really good base, a really good solid foundation for which to build that kind of cherry chocolate kind of impy flavour.
Yeah, I'll get on it.
Top lad. So yeah, it's one of those things. Any sort of tips for the boil or for the mash though?
I mean, I put in the sort of really dark malts sort of right at the end of the mash, just before this. Yeah, and sparged sort of through them, just to sort of take away a little bit of that sort of roasty, like astringency.
Yeah.
Again, it's the levers you pull. You've got like Carafa 1 or sort of like pale chocolate, sort of gives you that bit of the chocolatey flavour, and then like roasted barley or like Carafa 3, which gives you like a bit more of the roasty note. So depending on what you want, you kind of move those levers.
Okay. So it's a choice. Do I want extreme roast, which would be ideal if it was going into a barrel? But if you're just aging it in a fermenter like I'm going to be, then more of the Carafa. And obviously the chocolate kind of flavour, you can kind of balance that out depending on what you use between the Carafa 1 and the other stuff. And I like what's their name? The maltsters that's in Wakefield that I can't remember. I have not had enough CBD today. Fawcett's pale chocolate. I like that. I like that as kind of an addition within any darker beers that I do as well.
I'll definitely give you the chocolate notes. I think obviously the caramel sort of malts as well. Like I use the double roasted caramel in mine.
So you've layered your caramels, you've layered your
Yeah.
chocolates. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, double roasted caramel. I think I used like a caramel 150 in there as well. So just a couple of layers.
I love Brett because he gives us these wonderful things like Fredericks and cherries. Of course I can get Fredericks and cherries, man. Dude, this is me. We're talking about me, right? Yeah, I can get that stuff. That's not a problem. And to be fair, they were the cherries I was aiming for.
We went to a special beer event with Damien from Emperors, and he
He's a dude.
He just pulled out this like a load of bottles of this stout that he had in his presumably his basement for a couple of years that had been on these Fredericks and cherries. And it didn't release it, but he brought it to this event, and it was just insane. So nice.
They're a different flavour of cherry. They give a sweetness and a clarity of flavour that, from everything that I've researched about, they are the ones to have. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. We'll go with that. Send me a recipe, Dave. We're golden.
Yeah, definitely.
What's your thoughts about like the maybe a potential rabbit hole here, but difference between like UK crystal malts versus German equivalents, and maybe even go as far as say Belgium or Belgian equivalents.
That is definitely a rabbit hole that you're opening up there.
That is a big rabbit hole, isn't it? I'm just
good,
going to open that up.
Good talking point, though.
I think it would be so subtle, the differences.
Do you think?
Like, it's like you guys are obviously into your brewing lagers. You know, if you did it with a German malt or a UK malt, would you be able to tell the difference? Or probably just.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be able to go. I wouldn't be able to determine it in a lineup. I'll tell you that much right now. But I would love to try it side by side.
Yeah.
From a qualitative standpoint, just to be able to sort of. And maybe that's the place like lager would be where you would see the starkest difference. Perhaps when you're talking impy stout, I'm not too sure you're going to see it.
No. Yeah, I think that's
right.
a good point. Like for me, a good example would be like Carahel versus like a Caragold or a Caramalt, as in UK malts. I think there is a difference that I see with that flavour wise, but you know, putting that into like a recipe that's massively hopped or you know, whatever, it's going to be negligible difference.
Yeah, it's going to disappear, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. For like a Helles or a Pilsner or something like that, you might get that subtle, it tastes a little bit more like, you know, toffee versus a lighter, I don't know, caramel or whatever it is, but not as a general purpose sort of like, you know, caramel crystal malt sort of edition. I don't think you're going to see it under lots of hops or other stuff. So yeah, although like I mean, I guess there's a lot of other, you know, options there. You know, you look at like your Caramunic. Like, is a Caramunic different to an equivalent crystal malt? Maybe, I don't know. I've not really compared them myself.
Caramunic is totally different to crystal malts. It's far, 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 far sweeter.
Is there a caramel that's close? Like a different, you know? There's so many different...
I found that Crystal 40 isn't too far off, but there's a depth to the sweetness from Caramunic sort of 2 that kind of... I mean, you can tell they're different malts. But
nobody puts Caramunic into, like... hazy beers.
No, nobody does.
But then I guess nobody would put the equivalent like coloured crystal malt for English malts into a hazy beer either. So I don't know if that's a relevant point. But
Every point is relevant. That's why we've got
But the process is definitely different because they're obviously starting with Munich as the malt before they do the crystallization process.
Yeah.
What I'd like to know is, Chris, did you just go off camera just to change your hat?
No, went off camera to have a piss.
When did you change your hat? I'm sure that's not the hat you were wearing when you started.
No, it's the same hat.
Is it?
Yeah, it's
I thought
my
you were wearing a green hat.
No, it's Atlanta Falcons, mate. It's my NFL team.
Well, in which case I'm losing my marbles.
I'm not
The other
entirely sure you
question-
had any marbles to lose, Owen.
Yeah, that's true. They've all been spilt. Dave, how's the gold top?
It's beautiful. Yeah, really nice. It's got Citra Cryo, Citra
Owens.
702.
Tricky's got FOMO.
I'm so jealous right now.
It's got have you used Pacific?
I can't watch other people drinking a gold top and me not have
Oh.
one. You...
So good. Have you brewed with Pacifica before?
No.
I've used Pacific Sunrise. I haven't used
have you?
Pacifica.
Yeah.
It's a similar flavour profile from what I've heard.
And it's got
Was it? Pacific Sunrise, I think, was one of those tops that makes it sound like it's going to be awesome, and it perhaps wasn't that awesome. But I haven't heard of or really researched Pacifica.
It's
Do you know
got
what I'm-
Nelson and Cascade as well. So, yeah, very nice.
Do you know what I'm getting from this Impy, Dave? Now it's warmed up a little bit. As I'm getting, and don't take this to mean I'm talking about diacetyl or anything like that. I am getting a slight hint of a buttery character, kind of
Okay.
a smooth, super smooth kind of.
It's got a bit of lactose in it. That
Like a
Yeah, I reckon that
Like
could
a
be the
fatty character?
creamy lactose.
yeah,
sort of
creamy,
note to it.
creamy, fatty kind of, and it's not unpleasant. When this is warmed up, this is a far better beer than when it's cold.
Usually the case with MVs, to be fair.
Yeah,
I
usually
left it out of the
case.
fridge for an hour before I brought it down here, man. I don't know. Anyway, at the moment, what we are currently doing is we are spanking a dead horse. So how about what we say is, do you know what, Dave? Join us for the after party.
yeah.
I think we've hit the end of our questions. So unless Tricky and Owen have anything that they want to specifically talk about, I say we call this at 1 minute and 47, and we say, do you know what, Dave? You can answer the questions from everyone else.
Yep, sounds good.
Does that sound like a plan, boys?
100%.
For sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Somebody else do the closing, and I'll organise the after party.
Go, Owen.
Lovely stuff, Chris. I'm not sure where that weird sort of 70s BBC radio voice came from, but I like it. We should do more
It
of
was
that.
almost like
It came
the
from
Tony
the fact that I've got a
Blackburn
cold.
sort of type
I've got
vibe
I've
there.
got a cold.
Yeah, it was great.
Hey,
It
pop
was-
pickers.
Oh dear. I think their Simpy might be
That could be
picking him,
responsible.
to be quite honest.
It sent Owen
Dave,
back to the 70s. It was
Yeah.
that good.
Thanks. Dave, thanks for sending us these beers. They've been absolutely terrific.
Yes, outstanding trio of beers, Dave.
No
Very
worries. Cheers,
nice.
guys.
Yeah, really, really enjoyed the Nipah. Definitely an interesting, quite complex beer, the Colin's Secret, which was an interesting kind of voyage into discussion around New Zealand and Australian hops. And I loved the Tonka. And just to add, I did like the name. Is that a Harry Potter reference?
Yeah, the day before we named it, I went to the Warner Brothers Studios and did the Harry
Oh,
Potter
okay.
tour.
No.
And I got back and trying to think of a beer name, and it just in my head straight away. Tonks.
I took the kids there not too long ago, and it's a great day out for any Harry Potter fans. It's a great name and makes a lot of sense with the
Okay,
ingredients.
you wonderful, wonderful humans. What I'd say is, everywhere that you could possibly look, there is now a link to the after party. If you want to talk to Dave about anything, excuse me.
Where's the link, Chris?
Everywhere.
Can't see it. What?
It's everywhere. I've sent it everywhere.
It's not.
Santa Claus has got that link, man. Right? So it's on Facebook, it's on YouTube, it's on Discord, it's on every chat that I give a shit about. And if you want to join us to chat to Dave and ask him some questions, then please feel free. You should be able to jump straight into it. Dave, do not leave this window until we tell you that you can.
Yeah.
Episode 108, people, it's in the bag. You know what I'm saying? Dave has been a legend.
It's in the bag.
He's been a legend. He sent us 3 amazing beers. Just Tahoe. I drove a Chevy Tahoe the last time I went to America.
We'll extract that recipe from Dave and put it up on the...
we will. And we'll send it to the Malt Miller as well.
And
they will have it, so you can buy it crushed or uncrushed, depending upon your preference. I have to say that I've really enjoyed having you on, Dave, and it's been nice to see your journey, everything you've gone through. Much shorter version than mine, to be honest, but you know, guys, let's do this. Let's tick the box. Let's say 108's in the bag, and let's go to the after party. So, join us on Google Meet. If you've got the link, click on it. Other than that, say bye-bye, people.
Cheers, bye.
Bye-bye.
Dave, you've been a legend. Thanks for joining us, and we will catch you soon. Bye-bye.
See ya.